Fun fact, recently I've been reading a lot of graphic novels, so this whole video is going to be dedicated to graphic novels and the sort. I have 1 children's picture book, 5 middle grade. One of the middle grade is a nonfiction. There will be timestamps down in the description if you care about anything in particular. So let's start with the children's book, The Meeting, the first book in the Mr. Badger and Mrs. Fox series, if I'm correct. This was sort of a children's picture book graphic novel hybrid. It was a children's picture book, but it was in panels with bubbles of words and that stuff. This book follows a badger named Mr. Badger and his 2 sons, and then this homeless fox lady and her daughter come and move in with them. And it follows the Badger brothers and the fox girl as they're like getting used to each other and dealing with being together. There were themes in it with accepting people different than you and such. My biggest complaint about this book, it was a little weird that this girl and her daughter just spontaneously moved in with this man and his sons, and that was just like, okay. So that was kind of weird. It was a much more interesting story than I thought it was going to be, and the writing, I think, was kind of bad. It felt very stumbling over itself, even for a children's book. It wasn't horrible, but I'd give this book 7 out of 10 stars. Now for the middle grade books, this first one is The Stonekeeper, the first book in the Amulet series, which is a really popular series. I've heard a lot about it. This series follows a girl and her little brother who move into some relative's old house, and then they and their mom fall into a weird magical world in the basement. I would give this book 5.5 stars out of 10 stars. On one hand, I want to say that this book is super creative. On the other hand, I want to say that it's the exact opposite. I think the basic idea of the plot is the uncreative part. There's so many cliches in this story. I didn't know you could fit so many cliches into a story, so I would recommend this to someone who hasn't read a ton of middle grade fantasy because, wow, the cliches are just all over the place. On the other hand, I feel the finer details of the story were pretty creative. Still a little cliche, but still more creative. This was a very fun book to read. I'll be continuing it whenever I find the second book in my library. If you absolutely love the types of cliches and stuff that are in middle grade fantasy, then I would recommend this to you. If I read this 5-6 years ago, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. The next book I have is Coraline, the graphic novel adaptation of Neil Gaiman's Coraline. Just a disclaimer, I really love the actual book Coraline. It is one of my favorite books. This, however, is not. This is the exact opposite side of my enjoyment. This is definitely in my top 5 books I hate. The story Coraline is about this girl who is really bored with her life, and she finds this door that leads to some alternate dimension with another mother and another father and another house and another everything, except everything's better, and so she considers staying there, but then it turns out that there are some sinister things happening over there. It's an amazing story, it really is, but this is incredibly horrible. 1 out of 10 stars. 1 out of all the stars in the universe. I'm not going to get into too much detail of why I hated this because I'm going to do a full-on book review rant for this. But basically, my main 2 problems with this was a lack of work ethic and a lack of creativity. Coraline is such a whimsical and awesome story, and yet they picked the most boring me to death type of art style that you could pick in your entire lifetime. And in some of the longer conversations that happened, they actually used the same panel over and over again. And that, on top of everything else, put this on a level so bad that I don't even feel bad saying such horrible things about it, because that's just lazy. How did this get through publishers and editors and still end up on the shelf of my library? I don't understand it. Read the actual book Coraline. Pretend this does not exist. I was actually bored reading this, and I know that this is a story I love. Like, this is just why. The next book I have is the City of Ember graphic novel adaptation. The City of Ember is about this town where there's no sun. The only light that they have is their electric lights, and everywhere around this town is just darkness. And then the lights start flickering and going out, and now everyone's panicking, and it follows two kids who are trying to find a way out of Ember. I don't know what much to say about this book. I would give it like 5 stars out of 10. Again, I don't think this was the most creative graphic novel adaptation of a book because they didn't really do much. It was kind of just like copy pasted into comic book format. It wasn't a horrible art style. I don't dislike it nearly as much as I dislike the Coraline one because that one was just horrible. This one at least had some work ethic into it and had a decent art style that actually kind of went with the story. I think I preferred the actual novel to the graphic novel just because I felt like there was more narration. I feel like if you haven't read the actual novel first, then you would definitely be confused reading the graphic novel adaptation because it skips out on a lot of the inward monologues and description, stuff like that. You really only get like some of the dialogue and you get to see what's actually physically happening through the pictures, but you don't get that inner stuff and the explaining stuff like you do in the actual novel. So I would recommend reading the actual novel first if you're going to read this. And the next book I have is Wonderland by Tommy Kovac and Sunny Liu. This book I really liked. 8 out of 10 stars, definitely. This book obviously has a lot to do with Alice in Wonderland. It takes place in Wonderland after Alice has already left. We follow the character of Mary Ann, which if you don't know is the White Rabbit's housemaid, which Alice gets mistaken for in the original story. And then the White Rabbit gets accused of treason after a queen hears a rumor that the Alice monster that had gone through Wonderland had been looking for him. I really enjoyed the art style of this book. I thought it went very well with the story. I will say that a lot of the characters and places were definitely designed after the Disney cartoon Alice in Wonderland. I was really fascinated by this book. I really enjoyed it. I think that many Alice in Wonderland fans would feel the same. I would highly recommend this if you're an Alice in Wonderland fan. It was really interesting because you got to see the aftermath of Alice going through Wonderland and causing havoc. And also we got a lot of world building for Wonderland, which I just found extremely fascinating. But even though it connected a few dots, it still managed to keep the whole nonsense factor. My one complaint about this book is that it got a little bit too weird near the end, just a little chaotic, which is kind of how Alice in Wonderland books end, is in chaos. So maybe they were just trying to stay true to the whole theme there. I would recommend this book, especially if you're an Alice in Wonderland fan. And the final book I have that is actually the non-fiction book that I talked about, that is Human Body Theater by Maris Wicks. This book is basically a biology novel in theater/comic book form. In this book there's this skeleton and she's putting on this play about human biology. This book was very interesting and very informative. I feel like this book covers all of the basics of biology. I would highly recommend this to kids who are going into biology because I think it does explain all the basics in a very fun and interactive way. And it's always great when people make learning fun. There is a chapter in here about the reproductive system, which kind of goes without saying, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. It doesn't get into graphic details, obviously, because it's a children's book. I think it explained that section of that process in a pretty decent way. I'm gonna say 7 out of 10 stars. There were some parts that were not ridiculously interesting, but it's definitely more interesting than just a regular biology textbook. So that's all the books I have to talk about today. I should have another book review video up fairly soon because I do still have another 5 or 6 books to review. So keep an eye out for that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I helped you find something good to read or possibly helped you stay away from a book that maybe you should stay away from. That's everything I have to say. I hope you enjoyed and like and subscribe and do all that stuff. Bye! Rah!